start with, I'm trying to go in order here. We have Philip Greffer. Now, he is the founder of WISE, a platform that connects creative communities globally and facilitates cross-sectoral dialogue between innovators in the music and tech industries. Now, he's also known as a consultant, curator, creative thinker, music entrepreneur, writer, and DJ. Established WISE in Beijing in 2018. Now, the organization's mission is to unite Europe, Asia, Africa, and the world through music, art, and technology. A huge round of applause for our first panelist, Philip Greffer. And then, of course, after Philip there, we have... So I had a whole different arrangement here, so I'm just gonna... Yes. So next to Philip, we have the head of press and communications at the Worldwide Music Expo, WIMEX, which is a major event in the global music industry. Now, WIMEX brings together professionals from all aspects of the music business for networking and discussions on industry advancement. Now, last year's edition took place in Lisbon, Portugal, and featured over 100 speakers from 47 countries. Now, he is none other than Gaurav Narula. Huge round of applause there. You're gonna correct me on the pronunciations.
You got it right.
I got it right. Oh, hooray for me, yay. And then, of course, on our far right there, we have Claire Mite, who is the project officer at the Music in Africa Foundation. Now, it is a non-profit organization that owns and governs the Music in Africa portal, which promotes the African music sector and its operators. Now, the foundation aims to provide reliable information, foster exchange between music operators, promote African content creation, improve distribution and accessibility of African music, encourage entrepreneurship in the industry, enhance music education, and utilize current and future technologies for professionals and audiences. Now, based off of these profits, a huge round of applause for Claire, please.
Morning.
Claire, bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup.
I just wanted to flex that. Claire, je suis Mechi, chérie de la Zambie. Je suis personnalité médiatique. Am I getting there?
Perfect.
Ah, there we go.
Wow, Michi, I'm so impressed.
All right, so we are in the perfect hands for this discussion this morning. So let's just get straight into it. Of course, we're gonna have a Q&A. So if you do have questions or something you wanna ask along as we're having this discussion, please jot it down. Sometimes you find that you have a question mid-discussion and then you forget it. So if a question does pop up, write it down. We'll get to ask our panelists this morning. So getting straight into it. How have music conferences traditionally played a pivotal role in shaping regional music industries, and what specific benefits do they bring to the table? Now, I know we've got different contexts here when it comes to the conference side of things, so it would be nice to just hear from all of you on this one.
I'll start, okay. I mean, I think music conferences, are very, very important to bring people together and to, to share knowledge, especially. And the sharing of knowledge not only is on those panels, which are, of course, very important, but also happens, more informally and maybe even more importantly, at different places, sometimes at the bar, sometimes at a dinner, and these kind of very informal exchanges are also very important. So that's, one is knowledge exchange, of course, and, you have the networking. And then, of course, secondary effects like for a city or so, it brings like, tourism income, for example. Just to give you one example, as the mother of all music conferences probably is like South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And it started about like 30 years ago or 35 years ago or something like that. And it started out as like, basically a bunch of musicians playing in the local clubs, local musicians playing in the local club. And then it grew from there to bring like more people from the whole United States, then from all North America, then from the whole world in the end. And now, after 35 years, it's not only a music conference, but it's also a film festival. It's a technology festival. It has like tracks on cannabis business, you know, and psychedelics and whatever. So it became like this really huge hub for all kinds of businesses, basically, you know. So this is a trajectory that quite a few of those conferences go, you know. They start small and then they grow from there and bring like a lot of, you know, benefit to the local economy, but also to the people that come there.
Nice, interesting. Gaurav?
Just to add to that, I think, you know, I mean, people, or professionals and artists should think of conferences as an investment, not just something you go and you meet people, because I think it is a very, very good place to make your network, to be able to meet like-minded people. You know, I mean, no one does well in the music business alone. You need a team of people, and you meet the team of people a lot of times at the conferences, because you know people who attend have a similar mindset. So I always believe people think like, oh, it's very expensive. You know, certain conferences are expensive, but I always believe like, think of it as an investment. Like, you know, you go to a gig, you invest in yourself as a professional or as an artist. Conferences are the same thing. Think of them like that, because you will meet really good, interesting people who can help you in many ways. So it does bring in a regional aspect of you know, driving artists and the whole music ecosystem. And yeah, and that's what I believe. Like, it really can help if you also know what kind of conference you're going to and do your research. You know, a lot of times I think that's also really important. Like when you attend conferences, do the research on people who are coming to attend those conferences, so you know who to meet and what to meet about, and what to talk to them about. Because you know, a lot of people come to conferences with different mindsets and different priorities. Someone is here to grow their career, someone is there to relaunch their career, someone is here to find new artists, someone is here to find new topics to talk about. So it's always good to go to conferences with an open mindset and do a little research on who is attending and what you can get out of it. And yeah, and that's how I feel it can be really benefit. You can really benefit from conferences like these.
Perfect. Claire?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's important to know, I mean, to be prepared and in order to make the best out of it. Because as you said, I mean, the benefits will be different, whether you're a musician, whether you're an industry professionals. Most conferences, I would say, they aim at having benefits and opportunities for all. I mean, that's also how we curate access program in that sense. Like, we want it to be beneficial for emerging musicians who can learn, like attend a workshop on music production, but we also want like established players in the industry to be able to look at, we want this platform to open new doors for new collaborations and so on. The benefits, as you said, are also at another level for the host city, I would say. I mean, access go to a different African city every year. We like to pitch this to also local authorities, as we all do, I think, pushing like the importance of the benefits of the ICC across the continent, like, and music industry in particular, and show the impact of such events in terms of visibility, for tourism, for employment as well. Yeah.
If I could add to that, I agree. I mean, WOMEX travels in every different country every year within Europe. And one of the reasons why we do that is also to bring a lot of focus on the region we are traveling to. So last year we were in Lisbon, so we had a regional stage featuring regional artists. And that means, you know, when an international event travels, you have a lot of people who are focused on promoting the region and the talent from that region. And like this year we go to A Coruña, Galicia, Spain, And again, we would have a regional stage and have Spanish artists on that stage. So it brings a focus for people who are attending and brings the limelight on the region we go to.
Very interesting points there. Now, in answering the first question, Philip, I like that you brought in the aspect of adaptability within answering with the example you gave of the music conference. But bringing in the digital aspects to adaptability. In the digital age where online platforms and streaming services dominate, do music conferences still hold the same relevance and influence? How have they adapted to the changing landscape?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we just had COVID, right? So I can give you an example for WISE, which actually started 2018 in Beijing, right? So 2018, 2019, we were in Beijing. 2020, I took a plane to Berlin. And then COVID started, and we were like, okay, what's happening now? What do we do with WISE? First we had to postpone it. And then I was really thinking about, at one point, it was pretty clear that we could not do an in-person event. So I was like thinking, okay, what can we do? Maybe now it's the time for the new technologies, VR, So like I got some VR glasses, and I was like experimenting with it, and was really thinking about like, how could like a conference, or like how can you implement these new technologies into the conference? And it turned out that quite quickly it was still at this point too complicated to, especially for VR, because like not everybody has headsets, then between China and in Europe to do something like that is even more complicated, because you have the Great Firewall. So a VR headset from Meta doesn't work because it's Facebook, and Facebook is blocked in China, things like that. But even but then we just like started about this idea of metaverse and stuff, and then we had at least the idea to come up with Mozilla Hubs. Mozilla Hubs is a platform where you can build 3D worlds basically in your browser. So you only have to have access to the browser, and you don't need to have VR glasses. So we experimented a little bit with that and tried to get people into this browser experience and have like a 3D avatar communicating with them, And I have to say, so we did this, but they also did like, a normal Zoom kind of like, conference, back to back and connecting them. And, in the end, people didn't adapt it, so much. So like, I mean, there was a few people that were curious, and I met actually quite a few people, interesting people over the 2 years in like these different virtual worlds in a way. But people, or let's say over the age of 35 or so, they didn't really adapt to the new technologies. And maybe that's also the reason for that is also it's not there yet, how it should be. So this whole thing was an interesting experiment, but it didn't quite work. And of course, after COVID was over, everybody was so eager to, to meet in person again, So the in-person meetup is still, you cannot exchange it for a digital experience yet.
And we did talk about this before. I was going to say off air. That's a radio term. We did talk about this before we came on stage, Gaurav, especially on this particular one. Do you think that's a possibility for WIMEX? Will we see a conference where it's not so much interpersonal, in-person contact?
Sadly not, I think. WOMEX has always been a very handshake and a hug event. We have people coming from 110 countries every year, or more or less. And, it's an event, people come once a year, they look forward to coming and catching up with everyone. And, it's an event, we have showcases, and, it's an event where people come to watch these artists play on stage and book them for their festivals, for their venues, for their events, and then that's the thing. So digital will never give that idea of how an artist can be on stage. You need a live venue, you need a live audience to see how the how the artist reacts with the audience and how the audience reacts to the artist. So, we have tried. Of course, thanks to Corona, I think the fastest thing we did was we all got digital very quickly. And that's something very good which came out of it, that, you know, we could do home offices, we could do a lot of digital things, Zoom, everything saved our lives. But with live events, I have to say, for us, it really was a challenge to put an event on a digital platform. And there was a lot of learning. People didn't know how to interact with each other. You know, there was a whole, there were so many lessons to be learned at that point in a very quick, short time. Yeah, but for us, it was really tough, and I think everyone was waiting for this to happen again, that, you know, everyone can go live again. So for us, it's really difficult because, again, people, you know, you could be going for a lunch or going for a toilet break, and you will meet the person you were looking for meeting all this while, and you will have the most important meeting while walking or while taking the elevator, you know, and this would not happen digitally, you know. So for us, we really believe like we are, and we would probably end up staying a very live event. So much so said, we would, of course, and we try to do every year a digital conference or a networking sessions where people can actually come, and people who cannot travel, they have a chance to meet other people who would be attending as well. So there is a hybrid for us, and but I don't see us completely going digital. It won't work for us. Yeah.
All right. Now, Claire, with the Music in Africa Foundation, has there been any form of, like in the face of the technological advancement, how have you adapted your conferences per se to match the digital era that we are kind of all in at the moment? Has there been any change specifically?
Well, we also went through that COVID wave, and that's, of course, things that we considered differently from 2020. We canceled, I mean, we had no edition in 2020. It seemed quite impossible to put it out. I would say, like, also placing the question in the context of the continent would mean that, yeah, you have to consider also habits when it comes to digital, the kind of structuration that you have also across the continent around this, and the habits. And I don't believe in like virtual versus physical. Again, I think there's lots to explore in terms of complementarity, in terms of how to reach a different or a bigger audience. But again, as we shared earlier on, you want people there in the audience. I mean, we want to be together on stage. And I believe like networking will happen when you attend a concert and you walk on someone's tour, or you accidentally spill your glass on someone's shirt, you know. Or you may not have to go that far, but it takes that kind of like proper interaction and meetings to really network. I mean, also considering that these kind of events, I would say, on the continent is still developing. It's still pretty new compared to other places in Europe and globally. There's more and more music trade events, conferences across the different regions. But I guess it also takes people to develop some kind of habit to take this in consideration into the way you run your business, the way you do your work, to make it like, to really use it as a platform that you can benefit from.
All right. Now, with this particular next question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in as much as you all have your global experiences, I think there's been an interesting focus for Philip on Asia, for Gaurav on Europe, and of course for Claire around Africa. And I can speak for Zambia. Yesterday we had a session on Zambia Unlocked, and we spoke about how it's kind of hard for emerging artists to break out of that element, to move into the next level of their careers, because one, we don't have as many mentors. So talent isn't necessarily the issue. It's how do I get out there? How do I get to the next level? So with regards to music conferences and your respective kind of areas of focus, how have you seen that correlation happen? Is it effective between emerging artists and industry professionals in terms of fostering this new talent to kind of get to the next level?
Maybe I start. So yeah, I mean, at Wise, we don't have very many artists. We always have like somewhere in between, 10 and 20 so far. We might grow that in the future. But I feel that the artists that we chose have a pretty high, success rate. If you go to the major label, out of the 100 artists that they invest in, like maybe 10 make it, so that's kind of like the ratio. And the rest of the first 10, take the investment of make the whole investment back that the label loses on the rest of the 90. For us, I would say the people that went on to be successful international artists are about like maybe 70%. So, I think we have a relatively decent curation on that, So I think choosing the right artists and giving them an exposure, sometimes it's better if if you're not in a conference where it's like so many artists, because how do you stand out, out of these like 100,000 artists, And I think we also build out the platform, pretty good media outreach for like, our newsletter has like, 17,000 people on it and so on. So, and it's very international, so like people read it and see which artists are on there, and then, those artists get booked to other festivals.
For us, it's a bit tricky because we don't book artists ourselves. We have a jury and we keep it very transparent. So WOMEX has been happening for past 28 years, and this will be the 29th year. And so what we do is, to keep it fair for everyone, for an artist when they apply, we bring a different jury every year who has different demands and different backgrounds. So it's very fair. So sometimes, and their focus is, our focus is also on, when we select artists with them, is to represent every region of the world. So we will always have an artist from Northern America, Central America, Southern America, Middle East, Asia, Australia, Eastern Europe. So we make sure that we bring artists from around the world, because that's what we represent at the end. And how we manage with the artists later is, we try to be fair with every artist. We cannot give one artist more preference than the other, because for us, everyone is equal. In a way, we have to promote all of them. And then what we do have is, we have a lot of journalists who come to WOMEX, and we have around, like, I think, more than 100 radio journalists who come from across the world and who run radio shows, so they would do interviews. We have some press, television, we have some print media, and we try and divide the attention of the artists and the media equally, so that everyone benefits equally. And it actually happens naturally, because, like when you have a very diverse lineup, when you have an all-female band from Iran, which is a tough, you know that they cannot play in Iran, there would be equal enough attention on them, from media as well. So it gets naturally divided. Like we had a band from South Korea a couple of years ago who did reggae, and it's unheard of. So for us, it gets very equally divided naturally, thankfully, that media picks up artists who they are interested in, and thankfully it happens in a very natural, diverse way. So, yeah.
Okay, and Claire, how can music conferences facilitate opportunities for aspiring musicians and help them navigate the complex music landscape? Just sort of on the same topic, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that musicians, emerging artists are really our primary focus at Access. We're still a young one, compared to WOMEX. It's our 6th edition now. And in terms of the program curation, we make sure that, again, like we cater for all, and that Access is an opportunity for artists to come and learn and participate in masterclasses, workshops, this type of discussions, and also like to make artists understand that their platform is actually theirs. We noticed that, we were in Dar es Salaam last year, we're going back this year, that sometimes this kind of event can be slightly intimidating, or there's some kind of defiance, I would say, also with the music industry at large. So we try to break those barriers and be like, no, this is your place. This is a place for all, like, to mingle and to learn and to, like, get ready for it, but like pick and choose also what's how you can get the best out of it. So I would say it goes from through the program curation. We also have 3 night showcases. We also don't say, I mean, we select those acts, but it goes via a call for application just to make sure it's open for all and to make sure that Access is a platform to also discover new talent. So of course we aim at bringing, like, you know, bookers, promoters, and different industry professionals that can bring opportunities for musicians in that sense. Yeah. So I think. Yeah.
You wanted to add, Philip? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for this year's WISE, we also try to, you know, to think about, you know, a bit outside of the box and try to do like a songwriter camp where we brought in people, you know, from different backgrounds, and then have them write for. That was actually the question, you know, what should they write for? You know, should they write for commercials? Should they write for like a star, whatever? And then in the end, the idea was to let them write for Eurovision. You know, and so I think, you know, it's a bit of an experiment, and we did it with GEMA, which is like the, you know, here in South Africa you have SAMRO, so it's like similar to that organization, and you know, again, it's an experiment, but if it works out, you know, then obviously it's huge for the artists and for the writers, and also huge for us, of course, you know.
Absolutely. Now, this is a follow-up question based off of, you know, who gets invited, who has access to these music conferences. How do you then manage to, or perhaps what mode of communication are you using to ensure that there's diversity and inclusivity with regards to who attends the music conferences? Effective modes of communication, because sometimes it kind of depends on where you are, who you know, for you to get access to certain information about musical conferences, especially the regional ones. So what modes of communication do you use to get the word out there, specific to your regions so far?
If I could say, I think for us, the community really helps us. It's the networks we have, or people have created over the years at WOMEX. They really help spread the word. And I think that is because they see there is value when they come to WOMEX. So when they see there is value and they find value, they are happy to share it with their colleagues or with other friends and their people. And I think for us, that really helps us. And, you know, I mean, WOMEX started as a worldwide music expo, which was to bring people from around the world, people or feature artists who didn't have a voice in their own country or didn't have a voice in the international lands or in the European land. So, you know, it started with the idea of being able to bring all the cultures and music from around the world to Europe and help them multiply in other countries. So diversity was kind of easy for us in a way to attain, because we had enough people coming from around the world. Inclusivity has been a learning curve for us constantly, because, you know, I mean, the definition of inclusivity has also changed. You know, I mean, you want to keep including more and more people from different backgrounds, from different races, from different everything, you know. And that's still a journey, and we're still trying more and more. But I would say, for us, the networks have really helped us get there. You know, and when I say networks, I mean people who have created networks at WOMEX, which are, you know, we have a lot of networking meetings at WOMEX. That means we have a network of festivals, we have a network of labels, we have a network of Latin women, we have a network of, like, various, and anyone can start a new network at WOMEX. And that basically means that in a room they get together and they discuss similar issues. We have a network of people who own nightclubs. So, you know, so they have certain issues and they come from around the world sharing their hardships. And this kind of brings them together and, in a way, helps us bring more inclusivity and diversity into the festival, into the event. Yeah.
Okay, Claire, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, part of the also the main activities of Music in Africa is also running the musicinafrica.net website, which is quite a big portal in terms of exchange of information, sharing, and There's a section for artists and music and industry professionals profiles, and we share lots of opportunities, I mean, offered by the foundation, but also like lots of partners across the continent and globally. So we have like 500,000 views, I think, per month, something like that. So it's definitely one of our primary avenues, I would say, in terms of communication. Of course, we'd use social media, and I mean, because we also like going to different places, it's definitely a challenge to reach out to the, I would say, all the local communities in general. So we'll also use like networks. We reach out to universities. What we've done also past 2 years was to have workshops prior to the events that were very successful. Last year we had like hundreds of participants and actually prepare them to get the most out of the event, and even assist in terms of registrations and things like that, because this can already be like sometimes some kind of a challenge. So yes, we try as much as possible to use all those different avenues and all the yeah, I would say the networks that we can reach out to locally, especially when it comes to local musicians. Yeah.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, WISE started anyway as like kind of a bridge between, you know, China and Europe in a way. And since WISE is now in Berlin, you know, I've traveled quite extensively the Western world, and now I'm also the first time here in Africa. So we never had a problem really with diversity and like bringing people from, you know, other places. Here we have a collaboration with ARMC. Actually, they brought like a you know, delegation to WISE. But at the same time, you know, continuing with our Asian exchange, and also from the gender perspective, this year we had like, I think it was over 50% actually female speakers.
Woohoo!
And
oh,
there
that's
came actually
just me?
And actually it came quite naturally, you know, it was not even like forced or anything, so it was a really good sign. So yeah, so we're trying to be as diverse as possible. Yeah.
All right. Now, I know earlier on we did loosely touch on this particular aspect, but in terms of economic impact, what role do music conferences play in generating revenue for regional music industries? If at all it's even an objective, and if it is, how do they attract investment, promote tourism, and boost local economies?
You know, for us, I mean, I'll go to the point I made earlier that, you know, each year when WOMEX travels, we have a regional stage featuring regional artists. How it promotes regional, how it promotes a region is in many ways, actually, we look out for. You know, WOMEX is quite a big event. We have around 3,000 to 3,500 people attending every year. And, you know, and when you have that many people, and we have a certain infrastructural need. We need 6 stages in the evening. We need a cinema. We need an exhibition area. And we need few hotels. We need enough local transport for people to be able to travel to each other. So yeah, so I think we need a little bit of an infrastructure, and that also brings in a lot of tourism. It brings in a lot of local economy boost in terms of, you know, when people come, it's also an economical boost for sound engineers, production teams, security, everything basically gets promoted, you know, when we travel to a certain city. And it really helps, and we have numbers which exactly proves this, and every year we run a survey post-event, and we find out, like, you know, how many people stayed in the Airbnb, how many people stayed in the hotels, did they bring +1s, you know, and it all adds to the local culture, actually, and that's how we know that it actually creates an impact.
Now, I know we're running out of time, but so many things we haven't even tackled. We wanted to look at sustainability as well within the space of music conferences. But let's quickly look at identities. Regional music scenes possess unique cultural identities. I think we can agree on that. But how can music conferences celebrate and preserve these identities, in as much as we are inviting various people with regards to diversity and inclusivity? But how do you now hone the identity aspect of it within that space?
That's a difficult one. So you mean the identity of the music that you present? No.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we have a very particular focus at Access, which is like African music. So all the artists that are present, I mean, the main goal is really to bring global players to the continent. So somehow, can I say, decentralize push the center to other centers and really make it the place and make African music being at the center of the conversations. So all I would say the different aspects of the conference and topics and showcases are focused on that. So I guess the longevity of the event, the number of connections that we're able to create around it, the can I say endorsements by the local authorities and the support that you get can only help to grow this impact.
I think the identity comes out of the history, you know. So I think as a conference, you also should like promote a little bit of that history, or you should like educate people on the history. Where does it all come from, you know? I mean, I'm here and I want to know what's going on here, you know. Where does this, you know, how does it develop, you know? What happened in South Africa? How does it relate to other places in Africa, or whatever, you know? I mean, with WISE, when we were in China, we did that, you know, for the Chinese scene. When we were in Berlin, we had like, you know, this year we had like a panel on, you know, the electronic music scene in Berlin, of course, you know, the history of that and like where it's going, how it's developed, you know. I think this is very important to give like people, you know, from the outside, but also like from people that maybe are a little bit younger, you know, and don't know all that history, to give them, you know, where are the roots, right? That's very important to portray, I think.
For us, I mean, again, it gets a bit easy because we are nothing but just a platform. So Womex does only, we provide a platform for everyone to be able to speak what, where, and how, wherever they wish. So, you know, I mean, we have artists who are able to not perform in their home country. They're banned from their home country, but they have a stage at Womex to express how they identify. And that's a very important aspect of why Womex also started. To be able to give the voice to the artists they deserve, or not the voice, sorry, the platform they deserve. And also like the same way we feature a lot of conference sessions, we have a focus on indigenous music every year. We have indigenous music every year from Canada, from Australia, from Norway. We make sure that every year our lineup has some indigenous music present as well. Because for us, it's a very important part that they bring that history and identity for people when they come together in a room, that they can express their history, you know, as Philip said. And it's an important aspect for us that they have this independence and freedom.
Wow. That's a mind-blown sound. I was trying to add effects there. We are out of time, but I guess we can allow for maybe 5 minutes of questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Maybe we can take 2 questions. I will walk to you. Okay. Good to see you. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. So I have a question more around setting up festivals or even small events in different places. More around what would be the best strategy to get endorsements, particularly when you're starting out an event, and also considering the fact that I would take South Africa, for example. Our government allocation for arts and culture is very small in comparison to your industry. So just taking that into consideration, what would you say the best way, especially if you're looking at an event or a conference that is new, that is fresh, with everything that's going on around in the world right now? Oh, I'm Anthony. I am a creative entrepreneur and artist.
Do you want to take this?
I mean, yeah, you have to find allies, right? Somehow. You know, where are your communities? You know, try to involve your communities. If you don't have a lot of money, then of course, you know, keep costs down, right? See where income is coming from. If it's not the government, maybe there can be sponsors, of course. But of course, if it's like the first year you're doing an event and you don't have much money and not many people are coming, then you know, you might not get sponsors the first year. But you know, you have to start, and then you have to try to grow it year by year, you know, by word of mouth, by, you know, and getting more people involved in your festival or your conference. I think that's how you grow it organically. Or you go to a bank and get a credit, you know, have some get some money and like you know, try to do that. I'm not sure how it's working here, you know, if you even can do that. But yeah, that's yeah.
No, I would say, adding to that, I mean, if you have a real original idea you think you really believe in, I would say give a 3-year plan at least, because events take time to become something. You know, no event becomes anything in 1 or 2 years or 3 years. It's a long-term investment. You have to give it all in. Start looking for like-minded people who believe in your vision and find them and start working with them. I think there's enough funding available, and I know Music in Africa has a lot of resources on that. And try to find funding and see, there is a lot of good ideas floating around. See if you can match those ideas with yours. And I think if you have a good program, if you have a good business plan, you can get a decent amount of funding to start with. And then that would give you first few steps to know that, you know, how many more years you can go on with. But I would say think of it as a long-term strategy of starting an event, not a short-term. Like, money will only come after 3-4 years. First 3-4 years is just pure investment of emotions and money and, you know, just physical. It's just
that's the rule of thumb. You know, the first 3 years you definitely will lose money. Yeah. I mean, you know, maybe some people break even after the second year, but like that's the rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yeah, time would definitely be an important factor. I mean, again, the context here is quite different from the opportunities in terms of funding would be definitely different than those that some organization can access in Europe, although it doesn't mean that, I mean, your funding won't come from, you know, like global sources. I think it's important to explore. The context in South Africa, yeah, it's quite particular where I would say government funding, public funding is quite limited. Normally, music events would turn to sponsors, which is definitely something to explore in terms of the visibility that you can offer to them, and then, you know, emphasizing the mutually benefits, the mutual benefits that this can create. We've seen a change definitely with access throughout those. We're now preparing for our 6th edition. We are getting to a point when international music companies now also come to us. I mean, we worked with Spotify last year, with TuneCore and other music companies, and there's some partnerships that tend to, you know, become like long-term ones. So I would also look at this kind of partnerships, and as you said, like strong allies, really looking at what type of collaborations can bring what type of benefits and support to the event, not just also in terms of like cash, but in-kind benefits and so on.
Yep.
Good luck.
Any other questions? One more.
Good morning, Gaurav. I have a question for you. Since you said you are able to identify people from other countries, how are you able to identify and say this person is not just a trend of a moment? Because currently we have people who wish they can trend on TikToks and then you like them for just specifically one song. How do you identify and say this person, this is a brand for me, this is a person which I can go for a long term with?
Did I say that?
Oh, my name is Kagiso Mabisani and I'm an artist.
Good to meet you. Was it directed towards me or?
Yes.
Yes?
It was directed.
For us, I mean, we, you know, as I said, we don't book artists ourselves. We try to keep it very open and very transparent. So, like Access, we have an open call for applications where artists, conference, everyone can apply whatever idea they have, whatever music they have. And once they apply, they send in their application. We have a 5-people jury who sits down and listens and decides who would be selected or not. We do this so that we keep it very honest and very transparent, because when an artist comes to WOMEX, we do make sure that they get something out of it. And to get that part, so sadly, we don't really ourselves pick up artists, seeing who's trending. All we do is basically we encourage artists to apply. So one of the same reasons why we are here, why we travel, or all of us actually, is just so that we are able to expand our networks and meet more people, or meet more artists and meet more professionals, and encourage them to come to WOMEX, or come, just meet more people and see where it goes. For us, we somehow, sadly, we don't pick 1 or 2 artists ourselves. It's usually a jury process, and whatever we get is what we can decide the lineup from.
All right, fantastic. And that's all the time we had on the power of music conferences in driving regional music industries. A huge round of applause for our panelists, Gaurav, Claire, and Philip this morning. I know my Motswana sister had a question, but that's the power of music conferences. We get to network and contribute. It's a comment? Can we? Please, you can come through. Absolutely. Okay, so you can come through and off the stage, and you can have a chat with them, all right? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the lineup.